Major funding for these broadcasts has been provided by grants from Madison Realty Capital, New York Community Bank, M&T Bank, AmTrust Title, Ariel Property Advisors, Customers Bank, Capital One Bank, Meridian Capital Group. Additional funding has been provided by grants from AVR Realty Company, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Citizens Bank, Colliers International NYC, Collins Building Services, CPEX Real Estate Services, Douglaston Development Levine Builders, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Handler Real Estate Organization Handro Properties, Hodges Ward Elliott INC, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, John Castamatidis Red Apple Group, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Mattone Group, Mercantile Bank, Newmark Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Rockefeller Group, Rosewood Realty Group, SJP Properties, Stonehenge NYC, TD Bank, Terra CRG, the Merengoff Family Foundation, the Moynihan Organization, Moynihan Capital Partners, and these friends. I believe it's written that the first generation builds the business, the second generation sometimes continues, and normally the third generation loses the business. So really, what are the problems or what are the challenges and opportunities in transitioning of a family business? I've assembled these individuals who are all involved with family businesses, certain first, second, third generation, to talk about what do they see as these challenges and opportunities. My guests, they include Joseph Mattone Sr., the founder, chairman, CEO of the Mattone Organization, LLC. Ed Blumenfeld, chairman, founder, and CEO of Blumenfeld Development. Lester Petracca, chairman and CEO of Triangle Equities. And last but not least, Peter Sudler, who's the chairman and CEO of the Sudler Companies. Third generation currently.
Third, and I've got a fourth who just came with me.
Okay.
Second generation.
First generation.
First generation.
You have a second generation who works for you.
No, I work for them.
You have a second generation who you share space with.
Exactly.
Okay? And you have a potentially third generation joining the business. What do you see as the most difficult problems or the opportunities?
Egos and respect for them to get along, one another, and a clear division of duties, but agreement on how to proceed with new ventures. I think those are the main obstacles in success.
And you? You were with your father and you were with your brother.
Yeah, I was with my father and three brothers.
So let's talk about that and what happened. And now you have 5 siblings. You have 2 sons and 1 daughter. You have, as you said, 2 sons, but you also have...
I have 2 partners that I've known since they're 4 years old.
So they're like sons.
They're like sons, and I have presently 2 grandsons that are somewhat in some field of the real estate business.
And Joe, you have 8 children, 5 are involved with certain aspects of the business.
Yes. Well, I had both a heartache and an event that caused me to be very aware of estate planning. I lost my first wife to cancer, and at that time, I had decided to disclose, which I think was a mistake, how much money I had. But I decided that because of the event, I decided to distribute half of my money to my children. I think it was beneficial in one way and perhaps a mistake in other ways. Most of them in the office got about the equal shares who were in the development part. I had to compartmentalize somewhat like you try to do in terms of risk to reward and participation. It was left entirely to my decision. And so they didn't all get equal parts. Those who really worked in the development part of it got X percentage. Those who were somewhat related to development got a little less. And those who were not in the business at all, but had married well and were professional. One was a doctor, one married very well. They got less. They just got an amount to feel that they were recognized. And of course, having given them a rather substantial amount of money, it was $500 million, they enjoyed the income. They still worked. But I think it led somewhat to ego problems and the distribution of wealth and responsibility, which is why I'm still there working.
I said it earlier. I think that the transitioning of a family business is more art than it is science. I don't think there's a magical formula. I think a lot depends upon the dynamics of the kids, and I think a lot depends upon the structure of the business.
I want to preface, we have two things. We have the initial family business, and you today have 5 siblings, 5 children who are going to be in your business.
And that's the one that I'm referring to. For simple reason, that's the one that I control. In our process, not everybody was interested in going into our business. My oldest daughter has some interest, likes Baltimore, works for PNC in their real estate division. Said maybe in the near term she might decide to turn her attention there. She's very capable, a smart girl. She's graduated William & Mary and then on to Carey School of Business.
But now she has a brother who's in the business.
Yes, she does. And he is there and he's doing a great job. And she has made it very clear that she does not want to run that business. And Evan's made it very clear that he's more than willing to. And so the way that I've seen the world is to say, okay, here's the deal. We do everything in trust. So Evan's working there, he gets a 10% kicker. You come in, you can have a 10% kicker. In the meantime, you're going about your career, okay? And he's building what I have started, okay? And so he gets a little extra piece. You guys are still getting a nice piece of what's being done. And I
listen
think it's
to
a
Mr.
balance.
Mattone. He's still in the business for his own reasons that he has to be there. Ed was saying before the show, and I'm going to get to Peter, that one of the things that helping his transition is that they have a psychologist who talks to the family and discusses certain of the difficulties that are over there. Peter went into the business because your father said, who is the second generation, if you don't go into the business, I'm selling the business.
Right. I had a case of what I call, I'm going to show my father itis. This disease, which afflicted me and afflicts my sons, results in hearing your whole life that you're going to go into a business. You, of course, do not. And with myself, having heard that my whole life, I chose not to go into business, pursued a different career as a federal prosecutor. When my father told me in my 40s that he was disgusted and had nobody else and was going to sell the business, that's when I entered the business. Payback is a bitch, and my 2 sons, having heard that I would like them to go in the business, decided that they also had the disease, and they went into the military. And they've been in the military for some time. One of them just transitioned into my business after having spent 12 years as a Special Forces Green Beret. The other was in the Marine Corps, and I'm hoping that he will come into the business this January. I've heard this, but I'll believe it when he shows up at the door.
But your daughter,
My
the lawyer,
daughter
did go into the business.
My daughter, the good child, is an attorney and was assistant general counsel in my business, and she has just recently had 4 kids, so she's on a maternity leave right now. But I'm hoping at some point she will come back into the business. She's the one who does not seem to have the disease.
So here's the question for all of you. Since you have the next generation, all of you in the business, okay, or starting, when you were starting your business or growing your business, did you want your children, in your own mind, to join the business?
In the back of my mind, sure. I mean, that's what I was working for, is to make a multi-generational business. I grew up in an age in Manhattan, as you well know, where the major players in the real estate business were families. You know, what were they, the
5 families.
5 families, right. And so that was my background, and that was my dream in education. I started a business and came from a banking background.
Well, you know, we all have, again, different experiences. My experiences at Petracca and Sons, where we all had worked, the restructuring of the business wasn't pleasant. You know, my brothers were pissed off, and
who decided, the brothers or your father?
My father had all the control. He decided it. And so after going through it, and by the way, prior to that, you'd go to, and look, we're aggressive guys. We were building a business. We were all very capable. There wasn't a slouch in the group. I was at my desk at 5:30 in the morning and home at 8 o'clock, and that was the norm for my brothers. Everybody worked hard, and we built the business. I mean, we built it from a small to a very large construction company. But at the restructure, my father made the decision. And instead of going by the written rule, he went by what he thought was, and I think he had all the right intentions in the world, what he thought the right thing to do was. And it upset people. So Michael went on his own, my father fully retired, and then me and Gene continued going forward. But I was given the real estate to take care of, which was really just 2 pieces of dirt and some cash. And so from that, I had to make do with what I had. And I got the majority of that. Gene got the majority of the construction company, which I helped them build.
We were talking about in the green room the other element, daughter-in-laws, wives, and other situation. You know, the son and daughter may get along, but sometimes there's the third element called the new wife or the changes over there.
I think if you manage the process properly, you can alleviate a lot of that. And not all of it, because there's personalities and egos, like Eddie said. But the way I'm looking to structure with my children, you're getting almost the same as your brother. He's getting an equity piece for doing the sweat and the tears and that it takes, and the focus, okay? So at the end of the day, you're not far off who he is, and meanwhile, you're out with your own career. I think it's pretty hard. If you want to come in, you'll get an equity kicker as well.
Joe?
I thought it was pretty much the same when I came to decide to kind of invest in them the money I gave them on the death of my wife. They would enjoy an income while I was still alive, which I'm sure they appreciated. We got a lot of tax advice and things of nature, how to comply with the law, and that I'm sure everybody here would do the same thing. The important thing was the ones who were going to continue to work, in my case, Lester, worked, you know, Carl, right. Joseph.
But you see, there's another element, okay? It's nice to say you want to get the generation to continue on, but certain generations aren't capable of continuing on in the business.
It's very evident in our business, and there are many, many families where the patriarch hired a trustee or somebody to administer what was the business, and the kids can work there, but there's somebody non-family member that's in charge. I know 3 cases on Long Island, I mean, which is where we're based, but that's happened to, and I'm talking about large firms.
In my family's case, every single one of them are capable. Some don't have the interest. My youngest daughter wants to be a stay-at-home mom. That she wants to be her mother. That's who her mother is.
So wait,
Wonderful.
What about her husband?
You know what? He's not entering into the picture at this point, as far as I'm concerned. My other two sons, one's an investment banker, takes companies public. He's happy there. And my other son is in title, and he's happy there. And so, you know, till they show an interest, I think you just let it go the way it's going, and nobody seems upset in our family.
And what about you with the boys and the daughter?
Well, the daughter was very happy after having been in a big Wall Street law firm in the litigation section to transition into the family business as a general counsel. The sons, of course, as I've said, wanted to have their own career and have their own identity. I'm a big proponent of the kids not coming into the business right away. I think it's very important for them to establish their own identity and not always be a function of the father. And I'm very happy that my boys were able to go out and do something else and are coming into the business as I did later in life. I think that's really important for them. I had a bad experience with we had a minority partner in the business, and his son came in right out of college, and it was a disaster. And I'm a big believer that the kids need to have their own identity, do something else away from the family, and have that foundation before they come in.
I agree with you. I didn't say it as eloquently as you did. I said they have to go out and earn their bones, and that's what even my grandchildren are doing. They're working for other people and putting in the time, and they're going to come and bring something. My belief is if they come right out of school, they come in and everybody else in your organization says they're entitled.
So here's the question. What happens when you say to the children,
Which pretty much what
I want to sell the business?
my son came in after 5 years
Yeah.
of serving in the Navy.
I mean,
I don't think it's. I don't think the business or an individual property.
no, I'm saying you want to sell the business like his father said to him when he was a prosecutor running his own business at this time, saying, I'm 80 years of age. If you don't come into the business, I'm selling the business.
Speaking for myself, I don't have that problem because they're already in the business.
Yeah, but let me give you the other approach, okay? All of you are in the real estate business. Many people years ago sold their businesses or an asset of that business to a REIT, okay? So they now no longer own the family business. They were part of a public entity. It's a different thing. How do you think, maybe estate tax-wise or maybe personally you feel a different approach that, it's good my son or daughters are in here, but you know what? This is a way that I can do estate planning and we don't have to worry about the potential with siblings and other children and grandchildren. I can give them money.
What you've described is a dead end. You've reached a dead end and you have no other alternative but to sell into a REIT. I'm a third generation. My grandfather started this business in 1907 when they came over from Russia with nothing. So I felt a responsibility at some level, even though I was doing something else, that I was kind of given this, and I'm really a trustee. And I think at some point my kids think of that, think that way. And I think that's very important. And since I have the opportunity to transmit this to my children, I'm going to take that opportunity. We've had numerous offers, as I'm sure all of you had, to sell into a REIT and just become passive and just collect a coupon. But we're not going to do that. And it sounds to me like none of you are either.
No, and
I'm sorry, go ahead.
that is a dead end because that's where it stops. Now they're basically clipping coupons,
That's it.
right?
Right.
I'm not saying with the four of you, but there are certain people in the businesses, like you were bringing up before, that there's a trustee or somebody watching over it because the family is not capable of running the successful business.
It's an art, not a science, Michael.
It's a perfect example of the Bayside Terrace Shopping Center. That family goes back to the Indians. And they don't operate the business now. They have a property guy,
Right.
Italian fellow, I'm trying to remember his name. And
Must be
he
Florida.
runs the whole show.
Says that?
In Bay Terrace, you know.
Right.
That
You mean the
sounds,
Cord Meyer
that sounds like a
That's
family
Cord
that's
Meyer.
run into a.
Cord Meyer.
But they didn't.
But,
They're not.
but what you brought up is a point in terms of transitioning from generation. If you don't feel that you have the capability, blood capability, then you're at that dead end.
Or the interest.
Or
Okay,
you can get
let me-
somebody to
interest.
do it
Okay,
for you.
let me,
But-
we'll
but let
give
me
you
f-
another, yeah.
Let me finish. Estate tax planning, Lester said he's doing everything in trust. Is generational skipping trust. There's all types of trust
Right.
that you can accommodate siblings and you can get the business to keep going. And today, in today's world, to keep good people that you support your own blood with, you have to find a way to keep them happy
Now,
and keep
but
them
you
there.
brought up a very interesting point. You have two, like, adopted family members,
Right.
okay? This is not
Why
blood.
we have a psychologist to teach us how to talk to one another. But they're talking to just employees.
Art, not science.
It's an art. And if you're entitled, you're not going to talk to one of your employees the way you would.
Okay, so here's my next
should.
question. Each one of you also have a spouse who's been your partner 55 years. What's the feeling of your spouse for the transitioning of the generation?
Well, they will voice their opinion that they feel entitled to quite a bit, as my spouse does. And I'm going to satisfy her in some way that approaches what she wants.
My
I
spouse
think
has
that's
been.
only fair.
My spouse has been in the business with me from the beginning. She's my general counsel, and she's all in favor of having the kids take over the business.
Now, you have a son-in-law, okay, who's in the real estate business.
Yes.
What about him joining the business?
He's conducting his own real estate business and doing so
but
quite
you know what?
successfully.
You just said, look, you have a very successful business, okay? You know, that maybe afford to take in the other son-in-law.
Well, it's not a question of afford. It's what people want to do.
Right.
And right now, my son-in-law is conducting his own real estate business and likes being his own man. He worked for a real estate company, a big real estate company, for 9 years, and then went out on his own. And he's perfectly happy doing that.
Not only that, but the advice I was given a long time ago by Jimmy Mannix is you don't sell, you keep. That's why I got 40 different parcels of property. He says you go out and mortgage, Joe. So I've taught that to my kids. And I said, why do you think you're getting so many offers today for the properties that you own? In effect, the setups we got now, they're the owners and they're paying me monthly back so that we comply with the inheritance laws. I said, it's easier to go out and borrow the money if you need the money. But if once you sell the cow, that's it.
The cow's gone.
See, maybe I do it a little bit differently. It goes in trust that they don't pull from that trust.
No,
They're
my
out.
kids, you see, that's the
They're all
mistake
out.
I might have made.
They're all with their own
My
careers.
kids have got a cash, no, my kids have got cash coming in,
No, mine
big
do not.
cash. Well, that's the
Mine do
problem
not.
I created.
They're out still, doing their thing, knowing that we're doing things in trust.
Have the
God forbid
other
something happens.
children ever worked in the business?
My 4 children were all 5 were offered to work the summer going into their senior year as an intern, but they were told they could not work for me. My son Evan was playing ball at Navy and going to Navy. He didn't have that luxury. So he came to me between his ending 5 years of service and his starting at Columbia and said, in between that 9-month period, can I come to work for you? And he came to work for me, and I'll be very candid. I went home one night to Tracy and said, my wife, I'm not letting him go. You can't let something like that go. He's disciplined, he's smart, he's focused. He did very well at Columbia. And I just said, how do you give that to somebody else? That's my blood.
That's true.
And all the other kids in the family were totally cool with it and said they understood, they're not, they're doing their
How
own
did
thing.
your father take when your wife joined the business? Was he alive?
He was not. He had passed away shortly after I came into the business, and then my wife joined the business as general counsel. I begged her to join the business as general counsel. She's a superb lawyer, so we like having family and being surrounded by family and having family in the business. The problem is, in not saying here, is if you have an incompetent situation and there's a dead end, and then you have to go to some other
Correct.
scenario. Fortunately, I don't have that.
I think if you have confidence in the organization and the kids, the only issue is what I started off this program with, is egos. And you say spouses, I don't have that issue, but who does what and who's, Lester said it in the green room, cheese. There's only so much cheese you could have.
Allocation of the jobs.
Yes.
Work
Yeah. No, not.
responsibility,
I wasn't
ego.
talking about financial. I'm talking about jobs. Who's doing what and
Yeah.
who calls the shots. And the way we've handled it is, it's got to be unanimity.
It's a difficult situation to transition a business, I think. And I agree, it's an art and not a science.
So in conclusion, I'm pretty certain that the transition of your 4 businesses are going to be relatively easy because all of you have understood that it is an art. So I'd like to thank Joe,
Thank you.
Ed, Lester, and Peter, and I'll see you next week.